Worley is the founder and CEO of political advertising agency MDW. He joins me now. In some sort of shape or form, what each campaign is doing is pretty nakedly obvious in the great annals of advertising. But which is likely to be more successful?
Well, it's interesting because the ad that we're seeing coming out this week from Trump is very different than what we saw last week. Last week, it was the first major ad that they put out after President Biden stepped back and Vice President Harris took over. That ad was all about tying Vice President Harris to President Biden, talking about the inflation, talking about economic issues, but tying them together. Now, 1 week later, we see an ad from the Trump campaign that doesn't feature President Biden at all. Not by his likeness and not by his name. It's very interesting. And on top of that, you're seeing a shift in the messaging. We've gone from an economic and inflation message to now we're talking about immigration. I think that they're seeing polling numbers that probably say that independent voters are feeling a little bit better about Biden. His approval rating has probably gone up since he stepped down because of sympathy. And they think that right now isn't the right time to juxtapose the two in an ad. So they're changing course. But more than anything, they're trying to figure out how to hit the vice president because they weren't expecting this and they don't have a game plan.
Right, but at the end of the day, does her optimistic message versus a Donald Trump's hitting the candidate rather, I mean, bearing in mind, you'd have thought they would be much more about what they're going to do and how they're going to change, rather than just bashing away at what's just been before.
Absolutely. Well, I think that you've seen two messages so far from Vice President Harris. The first ad that they came out with recently, the Freedom ad with that great Beyonce song in the background, that was all about energizing the base and mission accomplished. Because I can tell you, as a Democratic strategist here on the ground in Florida, you are seeing the palpable excitement from the base about Vice President Harris. Truth be told, Democrats were kind of dealing with a little bit of clinical depression over the past few months. They have woken up. They're out of bed and they're out the door going to vote. So they really achieved that goal in the first ad. This new ad is looking forward. It's looking at drawing a direct contrast with her and former President Trump and looking forward to issues that they know are going to move the needle going forward. I predict that after the convention, you're going to see a messaging shift really on reproductive rights because that is a winning issue for Democrats across the board.
But if, as I think we can largely perhaps agree, maybe I'm being presumptuous, but Americans, particularly in the middle and in the swing states, they tend to be conservative with a small c. All right? They're
yes.
Conservative with a small c, as we say in Britain. The dangerously liberal moniker against Harris, the open borders, the 250,000 dead from fentanyl, that resonates with those in the Midwest and in a more small c conservative environment.
Of course it does, but it's nothing new. These independent voters in the swing states, especially in the Rust Belt, they have heard this time and time again. The problem, though, is you're going up against the record of Vice President Harris, who was a prosecutor, who put people in prison. She's been attacked by the left for that. So I think it's a bit of a difficult conversation to have with these voters to paint her as an extremist while also dealing with her record.
At our morning meeting at Quest Means Business, we had a very heated discussion about whether the important thing is whether there is still a middle ground that needs to be fought over, or whether the real issue this year is one of turnout. Is there still a middle ground to fight over, or is it really all about turnout? And bear in mind, one or other of my close colleagues are going to be whooping it around the office, depending on your reply.
It's all about turnout. It is all about turnout. And one of the things that's so different in this situation with Vice President Harris leading the ticket is you have a reinvigorated Democratic base. Let me just give you a little example. We're already seeing in polling here in Florida among Black voters, the excitement for a Harris presidency is sky high. If you can get the Black vote up to the percentage of turnout that we saw in 2008, in 2012 for Vice President Harris, that could help her substantially in swing states where you have a 1% margin determining victory or defeat. So if you can turn out that base and get them excited, that might be more effective than trying to go after voters who may have already made up their mind, who say that they're in the middle.
My executive editor, Pamela, thanks you, sir, for vindicating her views. I was taking the opposite point of view, but I thank you anyway. It is always good to have you on the programme. Thank you, sir.